Before we start, good.
Now you can start.
My name is Jim Fassel, this is the Adams Conservation Commission. And it is March 4th, 2021, approximately 6:30. Pam is going to read a message from the governor, and then we'll start the meeting. Pam?
Thank you, Jim. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 30A, subsection 18, and the governor's March 15 and July 2nd, 2020 orders imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Town of Adams Conservation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort has been made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. We have posted today's agenda in accordance with open meeting law, which included the call-in information for the meeting. Despite our efforts, if we are not able to provide for real-time access for the public to participate in today's meeting, a recording of this meeting can be available by request as this meeting is being recorded using the Zoom platform. As we are participating remotely, please note that all votes taken during this meeting will be by a roll call vote.
Is that it, Pam?
That's it, Jim.
Very good. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes of the last meeting on January 14, 2021. It has been shown to all of our members. They've had a chance to read it and go over the details. And so with that in mind, are there any questions or discussion about these minutes as stated?
I'd just like to move them for approval.
Okay, there's been a motion to move these minutes of January 14th for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Coach.
And I have a second from Tom Robinson. Okay. Any other comments? Any other comments, additions, or deletions? Then all those in favor, I will go with a roll call. All in favor, say aye. David Lipinski.
Aye.
Aye.
John Robinson.
Aye.
Brian Bishop.
Aye.
Natasha.
Aye.
I haven't got your last name. Could you? Okay, and is there anyone else? Okay. And myself, aye. So we have those minutes done. The next is the notice of intent filed by Cumberland Farms, Inc., for the property located at 5 Elm Street, 89 and 95 Commercial Street. Proposed is construction of a gas station and a convenience store facility. We have from Cumberland Farms, Peter, is it 3 members or 2?
There's 3 of us here tonight. Myself, again, for the record now, Peter Yeske, First Hartford Realty Corporation, 149 Colonial Road, Manchester, Connecticut. And I have Tom Reedy and Luke DiStefano who can introduce themselves.
So for the record, Mr. Chairman, Tom Reedy, an attorney with Bacon Wilson out of Amherst.
Very good. And there's a 3rd person?
Yes, good evening. For the record, Luke DiStefano with Polar Engineering.
Okay. Before we go any further with the presentation, this presentation was given, was it 5 years ago?
No.
And then a while back, and then withdrawn.
That was in front of a different board, Mr. Chairman.
It was done in,
It was done before the zoning board of appeals, so it's a completely different application.
okay. So I've been instructed that this is new. So and we have Donna Season with us to make sure I don't get into any trouble. So with that, I will allow Peter to make your presentation to the board with your compatriots.
Okay, and I'll turn it right over to Tom, I think. Tom, if you
Sure.
want to
And
lead us
then
off.
I'll probably do a nice bounce pass to Luke, but
There you go.
I will note that as Donna had pointed out, this has never been in front of the Conservation Commission. The idea of the project came about several years ago. We had explored it with the Zoning Board of Appeals. We had to request a variance, and then we had withdrawn that, got some more feedback, and then obviously the town went through a zone change, and so our permitting path as far as the land use portion of it has changed from what it was. But we had never been in front of the Conservation Commission, and so this will be our first presentation this evening. We still do need other approvals from municipal boards that we will go through, but we understand, and it's typically prudent to go through the Conservation Commission first, or at least to begin that process. And so, that's what we're doing here. We fully expect to have this hearing continued for a peer review, but at least wanted to give you a presentation on what it is that we're looking to do at the site and any of the potential impacts and how we think that we're mitigating. And also just to talk a little bit about the site itself, some of the environmental contaminants that exist on the site, and what Cumberland Farms would be doing to clean that site, all what we think is overly beneficial to the town. So with that.
Before we go any further, I'd like to recognize Mark Stimson from DEP. Has been an invited guest also. Okay. Good evening, Mark. Hi.
Just had to unmute. Hi, everybody. Jim asked me just in case anybody had any regulatory questions. Other than that, I'm just going to sit here and listen.
I didn't want to ignore you. You would never be ignored. Okay, here we go.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Luke for the substance of the presentation.
Luke.
Okay, and is the town going to share a screen? I am having some technical difficulties with the screen. I can share a couple of plans, but they keep closing unexpectedly on me. So what I can do is I can walk through, and then hopefully I can get these things to stay up on the screen, unless someone from the town can present at least a site plan.
No, we don't have that capability.
We
have paper.
We have the site plan. We have 2 site plans within the office. Does anyone else out there have the site plan? No.
Yeah, we've all been given them as board members.
Right. Every member of the Conservation Commission did get the site plan.
Right.
They should have access to it. So Luke, go ahead.
Okay, so what I'll do is I will quickly run through, again, existing conditions and proposed conditions, and then hopefully at some point I can get the site plan up on the screen here. And once the presentation is complete, we're more than happy to answer any questions. But I think most, if not all, of the city is probably familiar with this particular development. As mentioned by the chair, it's been in the works for about 5 or 6 years now. So it's been a little bit of a journey to get to where we are. But overall, we feel we've got a plan that is not only good for the city, but good for the property in which this development or redevelopment, I should say, is being proposed. As noted, this is a redevelopment, thank you, Tom, of a handful of parcels located basically at the intersection of Elm, Commercial, and Prospect Streets. And if you have an opportunity to see the screen, it's basically the property dead center of the screen right now. It's currently developed as a vacant former gasoline facility with what I would consider a junkyard, a residential structure, and then a handful of other structures located throughout the property. The site itself is a little over 65,000 square feet, and as noted, sits at the intersection of Elm, Commercial, and Prospect Streets, and is adjacent to the Hoosick River, which you can see running, as Tom is pointing out with his cursor, north to south on basically the right side of the screen there. The proposed development calls for a complete raise and rebuild of the entire site. So everything on the property today will be demolished and removed from the site. That includes all above ground and below ground features. And if approved as currently proposed, Cumberland Farms is proposing to redevelop the site with a Cumberland Farms gasoline facility and convenience store. The convenience store would be roughly 4,384 square feet and would be located in the direct center of the property and can be shown in yellow in the rendering on the screen in front of you. The building itself will be serviced by 27 parking spaces located on the north side, the east side, and the south side of the building. The Cumberland Farms is looking to construct 4 multi-product fueling dispensers, which is nothing more than a gas pump beneath a 24-foot by 122-foot area canopy. And that is, as you know, the structure that sits above the dispensers. Because they are proposing 4 multi-product dispensers, this facility would have the ability to fuel 8 vehicles at any one given time, given that each dispenser can fuel 2 vehicles, one on each side of the dispenser. The site will be served by 2 curb cuts, both full movement curb cuts, one along Commercial Avenue in the southeast corner of the property, and then one onto Prospect Street on the north side of the property, basically in the center of that property line. That's important to note because we will be reducing the number of curb cuts currently accessing the property now, given that it's multiple properties, there are multiple curb cuts, and we feel that consolidating the curb cuts into 2, one on Commercial and one on Prospect, as noted, is going to result in an improvement over existing conditions in our opinion. As you can see from the rendering, Cumberland Farms has taken a lot of care in using only portions of the site that they need to. We're trying to maintain as much green space on the property as we can. Under this post-developed condition, you'd be looking at roughly a 50-50 condition when you compare impervious areas, which would be the building, the canopy, and any asphalt or concrete areas on the site, when compared to open space, which is the landscaping as shown. One of the other major improvements that we feel is being made to this location would be improvements to stormwater management. Under existing conditions, the site basically runs untreated and unchecked into the abutting rights of way, into either Prospect or Elm Street, and ultimately into the city storm drainage system where it's conveyed, I believe, to the river. But under proposed conditions, if you've had an opportunity to review the notice of intent that was submitted or the drainage report submitted along with it, we are proposing to completely capture and infiltrate all runoff from this location. Now, that basically we're going to do that through a series of deep sump catch basins, which will collect runoff from the various paved portions of the property. That runoff will then be conveyed via a series of pipes through some proprietary stormwater quality units where stormwater will be pre-treated prior to an infiltration basin located between the dispensers and Elm Street. And again, if you've had an opportunity to review the drainage report, you'll see that we are reducing all runoff rates for all storms up to and including the 100-year design storm. And as I previously mentioned, we are proposing to pre-treat all runoff prior to infiltration. So you will see a significant improvement in stormwater quality as well as stormwater quantities exiting this property, which again, we feel is a major improvement over what you have during current conditions. Again, as you can see from the rendering, we are proposing a pretty substantial landscape plan. We are aware of our neighbors to the north and to the northwest. So we've taken steps to provide landscape buffers and to basically try and soften this site as much as we can from our residential neighbors to the west and north. All utilities will be upgraded. We're looking to provide all underground utilities to this location. That would include sewer, water, gas. Again, an improvement over existing conditions. And then lastly, what I'd like to touch on is about two things: lighting. Again, if you've had an opportunity to review the plans that were submitted, we have a very detailed lighting plan proposed here, and it's a plan designed to put lighting where we want it and where we need it, and not to put light into either our abutting neighbors or the abutting rights of way. And that's done through a series of full cutoff lighting fixtures that are designed, again, to put light straight down onto areas where we're going to see activity. And that would be underneath the canopy, around the building, within parking areas, at each curb cut. But again, not casting glare or light trespass onto neighbors to the or into any of the abutting right of ways. And then lastly, improvements to, or just the overall fuel dispensing system proposed here will meet and exceed all federal, state, and local requirements. It is a state-of-the-art fueling system complete with double wall, fiberglass underground storage tanks, double wall piping, all the electronic monitoring systems, overfill protection, spill containment, all designed to monitor the fuel dispensing at this location 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We've filed the notice of intent because we are adjacent to the river as noted, and portions of the proposed development will take place within the 100 and 200-foot riparian zones associated with the river. Tom is taking a moment to call up a rendering here. This is a superimposed rendering of what the site would look like onto the existing property, facing the street, basically from Commercial Ave, looking in towards Elm Street. You can see Prospect in the back, but you can see the canopy, the dispensers, and the building behind. And hopefully from the rendering, you can see again that Cumberland Farms has a very nice looking gasoline facility. It is a gas station, but Cumberland Farms, being a Massachusetts-based location, has always taken pride in their appearance and the type of building and design that they have throughout the entire facility. So you can see little things like stone around signage, around canopy footings, and around the base of the building. Similar colors throughout the entire design, whether it be signage, canopy, or building, all done in a desire to make everything tie in together. So it doesn't look like a bunch of different things on the property. It looks like a well thought out and well designed location. And hopefully from the rendering, you can see and feel the site is now, i.e. a junkyard and a vacant gas station. I think you're going to have, in my opinion, a much better property under proposed conditions. And with that, I am more than happy to answer any questions the commission or the audience may have. Thank you.
Maybe, Luke, before you do that, maybe I'll turn it over to Peter just to talk a little bit about the remediation on site.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, as you can imagine, the site is obviously has some environmental concerns in its current present. You can see the junk cars. We do have records. Obviously, it was a former gasoline station. We do have records from the town that 8 underground storage tanks, I think it's 8 or 9, were removed. Most of them for petroleum, 1 I think for kerosene, and 1 or 2 for home heating oil servicing the building and one of the residences on the site. So while we believe those tanks have been removed, there's obviously concerns about potential soil impact. So we've done as best we can with the limited amount of room on the site to maneuver to get some sample borings in areas where we know those tanks are. But the bottom line is we're planning a substantial remediation of this site. Right now, our estimate, and again, it'll be more solidified when we get those cars off the site, frankly, and get a little room. But right now, our estimate is about $200,000 just in soil remediation work to make sure that any soil that is classified as above standard or something that needs to be treated is taken off that site. Right now, we're planning to remove about 3,000 tons of soil. And again, our idea is obviously if the project is so approved by you and other boards, once we close on it, we'll have the site cleaned up and get some extensive testing done and address any environmental concerns that may be there. Obviously, the age of the buildings too, we're not overlooking that. We anticipate right now about $85,000 worth of asbestos and other hazardous material removal in those buildings. So Cumberland Farms is going to do an extensive cleanup on this site. We're anticipating it, we're budgeting for it, and we're ready to tackle it head on. They have their own internal environmental department in Westboro at their headquarters that does this all day, every day.
Perfect, thanks. And just to note that Peter talked about the export of soil and nothing to do with the import of soil. So once you take out that's amount of soil, you've got to bring in clean and suitable soil. So that's something additional, but that'll be. And Luke, I don't know if you want to touch on just what Cumberland looks for in the soil that they bring in to these sites.
Yeah, I think the simplest way to put it is, as Tom mentioned, is they just want clean, as close to natural fill as they can get. Yep. So it will be, again, another, in our opinion, big improvement over what you have under the existing condition.
So probably with that, as Luke alluded to earlier, we're happy to take any questions that the commission, Mr. Stinson, or the public has, at the request of the chair.
Thank you for your presentation. I was present when they took those tanks out, and it was done under the regulations, and it was done with no adverse conditions found at the site. But of course, you're going to double check that area.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and we absolutely will. We're anywhere where there's evidence of a former tank will be tested.
At this point, I'd like to have members of the board and members of the audience have the opportunity to ask questions and make comments. Brian, why don't you start off?
I really don't have any, Jim. I looked over the plans and all the specs, and everything looks good. I mean, it's well addressed, and I think as long as everything is up to DEP standards, I mean, I think everything looks great.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, I just want to, my comment is to the applicants. I think they've done a tremendous job, and like they say, it's going to be a huge upgrade. And as a lifelong town resident and a Conservation Commission member, I applaud their application, and I look forward to seeing it done as they propose. They've done a great job.
Jim, I'd like to say in my years on the board, it's probably one of the finest proposals I've seen. So thank you very much and hope you complete your project within the town. Thank you.
Natasha?
I think it'll definitely be an improvement to that area, and it'll definitely have a lot more visual appeal, because right now it's just a mess. And having that there and the greenery that they put around their stores will make it a lot cleaner looking.
Very good. My comment becomes, in the past, within the 5 years that Cumberland came and then went, they've had an opportunity at this site to show their true colors. And last year and the year before was nothing more than a traveling junk shop at that area where they could put anything they wanted. It was poorly regulated. It was poorly done. In fact, it was so bad, the material was so bad that when they didn't sell it during the day, they left it there over the night. They didn't, if people come and took something, more power to them. But I think this is a great project for this area, and I'll leave it at that. Now, to the people in the
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
yes,
Would you like
Donna
to,
Season.
would you like to explain, before you take any comments from the public, would you like to explain that the commission has engaged Hill engineers to do a peer review with wetlands scientist Emily Stockman? That this is, it's a very complex proposal. It's a very highly technical proposal, and the commission, nor does the town, have the expertise on staff to carefully review it. So to ensure that the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act and the state stormwater management requirements, regulations are addressed, that the commission is going forward with the peer review. And I think you know how long they're going to need to take for the review.
Yes. Just to highlight what Donna said, that we have hired Hill Engineering, and they have subcontracted Emily Stockman to represent the needs and the requirements of the regulations. Because aesthetically, the place is going to be a lot better, but also it must conform with the regulations that make it a more complex area than it should be, but one that we're willing to work with and improve upon. I would like to ask members of the public to respond, if you could. I'm going to go with the Gutmans to begin with. They're right in the middle, and they come from Beecher Street, and they're concerned people. Anita and Pete.
They're muted.
Anita.
Would you repeat that so he could hear that again, please?
What comments do you have to make concerning the project?
The only comment I have, Mr. Chairman, is to the representatives for Cumberland Farms, is where does the contaminated soil go?
Okay.
It would be, I'll jump in, Luke, you can jump in too, but it would be taken, depending on what constituents there are in it, it would be taken to an off-site facility. I'm not sure where. It would depend what facility had the room at that, at the time of our construction. But it would be taken to an offsite facility, and it would be treated accordingly. Mass Deep has certain standards that they make us follow for soil materials. It can either be used as landfill cover, for example, or it has to be landfilled itself, or in extreme cases, it has to be destroyed. But it would be taken offsite and to a facility that I would assume is out of town, but one that handles these types of hazardous materials. I don't think you have that type of facility in town, unless I'm mistaken.
No. So the bottom line would be that it wouldn't be stored anywhere in northern Berkshire County.
I can't speak to where the material exactly is going, if it's somewhere in Berkshire County or not, but it would be taken off site. It would be taken away from the site.
And that's up to DEP, right?
I think not to step on, and maybe not to step on Mr. Stinson's toes here, but so typically I think what we would do when we get on site is to test the soil, see what it has in it, determine who can take it. Sometimes you have to leave it on site. So if it's too hot and like Andric Natural Earth and Chicopee can't take it, then you've got to hold on to it for a little bit. And so I think it would, like, I've had projects that have had to, and it's all done like with an LSP, with record keeping. Sometimes they go up to Maine because there's sometimes only facilities in Maine that take the type of soil that will come out of here. So I think to Peter's point, we can't really say where it's going to go. We can just tell you, we'll have an LSP with bills of lading to determine where it can go, to coordinate with the end resting place for the soil. And that's all done through DEP with an initial filing and then intermediate filings along the way. And again, Mark, I don't want to step on your toes if you have anything to add.
I have a follow-up.
Oh, everything you said was perfect.
I have a
My
follow-up.
wife.
I have a follow-up to that. So in the event that you have to store any of the soil on the property, what measures are you taking to control erosion?
Yeah, if I may, generally, the soils will be covered, traditionally with a waterproof cover. We will provide soil erosion measures, whether it's hay bales or silt fence or a combination thereof around any piles. Again, that will all be dictated by the LSP or the licensed site professional that will be on site during any of the excavation operations. And once, as Tom mentioned, they classify the soils, then they can determine exactly what we need to do with them.
I have a question for for the chairman, Mr. Fassel.
Yes, I'm going to go to Elizabeth Irwin.
Jim, I think Peter Gutman has a question for you.
Oh, you have a question for me?
Let's go ahead, let him finish.
Elizabeth, he has a question for me, John, so I'm going to take his
Yeah,
question. I'm gonna go
this was more.
Yeah, fine.
This is more or less a procedural question. Why did the Conservation Commission have to take this project under review? Was it because of all the soil removal?
Traditionally speaking, Peter, we should be the first agency that deals with the project.
Okay.
And after that, it would go to the different parts to it. The town, you chose to go the other way, and you kind of noticed that it ran into a lot of difficulty to begin with. Conservation.
Riverfront.
I mean,
And also we wanted
It's jurisdictional, Jeff.
went down to me.
right.
Wanted to fund it. We wanted to fund the project with
No, I was just making the point that it's within the riverfront area, which is under the jurisdiction of the
Yeah.
local conservation commission.
we're gonna require, Peter, the most from the engineers from companies. So we should be the first ones. And we should be the first ones with every project. If the town chooses to go elsewhere, so be it. But they got smart and came to us first. Elizabeth, I'll go to you.
Hi, everybody. Just for those who don't know, I live right on Temple Street around the corner from this new facility, hopefully the new facility, or rather around the corner from that god-awful place on Commercial. So, and I'm excited. I am a homeowner here. I'm excited about this. I have a legal 2-family home there and I live in one of the apartments there, but I do have tenants. So I have a couple of quick questions for you, just so that I have a better working idea of how this is going to be laid out. I was looking at the site plan and back where the back of your the Cumberland Farms. Yep, great, thank you. Right where it will butt up against Temple Street and my property and my neighbor's properties. Is that going to be fenced, or are we going to leave that open for people to walk through?
No, there'll be a 6-foot-high white vinyl board fence that runs basically along any portion of the site that doesn't front on a street, but that small portion on the west side adjacent to Temple will be fenced as well.
Okay. So right along my property, I'm going to have a big white fence. Not a problem, just wanted to know. And then so people walking through on Temple Street won't be able to walk through the back end of the property to get to, so we'd all have to walk. That's okay, just wanted to know. And let me see, let me just get to my questions here. Bear with me for a moment. So I know this is kind of early in the game and we've talked about it some more, but I'm going to ask you guys from Cumberland Farms to just think about something on the neighbor's behalf. In the summer, we have our windows open from the morning till the evening. And I know you guys have commercials at your pump station, and that's fine. But I'm going to ask you to just consider starting and stopping them a little later and a little earlier on behalf of the neighbors who don't need to wake up to commercials at 6 o'clock in the morning. It will have a direct effect on myself and my tenants. And I'm not objecting to this project. Please don't misunderstand. But I do have just some concern about the well-being of the families around here and the tenants and myself. And so if normally, let's say you start at 6 o'clock, if you could bump it up to 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and then shut it down earlier in the evening while our windows are open in the summertime, I'm sure we'd all appreciate that.
Thank you very much. And you have an astute point of view of what's going on. And we're very happy that you understand how we want this project to go forward as much as you do. We just wanted to go through with the mind of the conservation regulations in mind.
Absolutely. And we all want everybody to be safe, including our water and our fish and our birds. And I just want us all to be able to sit out in our backyard in the morning and have a cup of coffee and just not be so, not be angry about our new neighbors. I'd rather be happy about our new neighbors. I understand the fence is going to mediate a lot, and you've done a great job with the trees and all, but just please take that under consideration. And just for my one last question, just for my own edification, I just think it's so interesting that you're going to do this stormwater cleaning up, I'm sorry, I don't know the word that you used, but I'd really like to know more about that process. That sounds really great.
Well, we'll be going over in detail when we have our next meeting. This is not the end meeting we have. This is the beginning. So come again.
All right.
We need your encouragement. Greg Lucia, are you an onlooker or a worker? Greg,
Hi, Jim.
how you doing?
Good. I'd just like to say, I have been following this for the last 5 or 6 years. Not so much attending the meetings, but in the paper. And I just thought I'd check in tonight's meeting. I do think it's a great project for the town. People coming in from Pittsfield, I'd rather have them see a nice looking Cumberland Farms than the what we have there right now. People are always complaining about the entryways into town, whether it be from the north or the south. Maybe this is a good start to help at least the south end of town with the new construction on a commercial street and a new Cumberland Farms. It's a good start. Congratulations. I hope the project goes through.
Thank you very much. And that's why, Peter, we are in conservation are doing it first. In order to go through, we have to be abreast and we have to be involved with the conservation rules, and they're going to be much more demanding of what it takes to make this project go through, because we in conservation want it to go through also, but we want it to be fitting with the regulations that are there. Mark, would you have any feelings? I don't want to ignore you.
No, that's fine, Jim. I don't know if Pam emailed all my file number comments to all the commissioners.
Very good. Thank you very much.
So if, if you read the comments, you don't understand it, you can always give me a call and email me. For any kind of regulatory questions, I'll be glad to work with anyone.
Thank you, Mark. And that's why Mark is here tonight. He's stationed in Springfield, but he's made an effort to represent DEP, and he has an acute interest that this goes through well and correctly. Donna?
Jim, I just didn't want you to overlook Wayne Piaggi, who I think is also an abutter and our zoning.
Oh, I missed it. Where are you, Wayne?
There he is.
Raise your hand.
Can you see?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were one of the engineers.
No, not at all. I'd like to say thank you, Cumberland Farms, for coming back to us, coming back to the town and moving on this property. It's going to be a beautiful thing when you guys redo the land and make that building up. It's going to be beautiful. I can't stand what's there now, and it infuriates me. I'm just glad you're coming back. And I'm very familiar with Cumberland Farms and their rebuilding of properties. They do an amazing job. The people in town should be very, very impressed as the steps they take to remediate the situation and then have the final product. You'll be really happy with it. Thank you very much.
That's great. It's good that we have that feeling, and that encumbers Cumberland Farms to do your duty too. Make sure when we're finished with this, everybody is satisfied. We want the project to go through according to the rules and the regulations of the Conservation Commission, as well as there's other things. With that in mind, Donna, do you have any comment to make?
No, Mr. Chairman. I think you talked to Hill Engineers in terms of how long it will take them to conduct their peer review?
Yes, I talked to Darren Harris from Hill Engineers, and they feel they need 4 weeks to go over their part of it and then to present. They just hired as a subcontractor Emily Stockman, she will represent them in part of their project. So what we need now is a request to continue this hearing for 4 weeks. And at that time, we'll come forward with Hill Engineering and, by the way, by which Cumberland Farms is paying for. So it gives you an idea that they're putting their money where their mouth is. So at this point, I need a motion. I need the applicant to agree to continue this for 4 weeks.
We'll agree, Mr. Chair.
And we will vote accordingly to have a 4-week continuance of this project. Brian? Aye or nay?
Aye.
Tom?
Do we have a motion, Jim?
Maybe we better get a motion first.
You want to discuss?
I got 1 foot out the door, Tom.
I'll make the motion, Jim, that we continue the meeting for a 4-week period of time to conduct the peer review and to get required reports.
Okay,
I'll second that.
Do we have a second?
Yes, second.
Second. Now, Brian?
Could we discuss,
Aye.
Chairman?
Okay, I told you I got 1 foot out the door. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I think it would be helpful to actually choose a date that everyone can work toward.
If you got,
So
you got
Pam
it.
is,
So 4 weeks from tonight leaves us at April 1. And if we-
Oh, appropriate.
If we feel that we.
It's inauspicious, but we'll do it as it is.
would the applicant be okay with April 8th?
No issue on my part. Tom and Luke, I don't know if that works for your schedules, but
We're not superstitious, but April 8th.
I am.
Yeah, I mean, as long as whatever we can do to, and obviously Donna, if you want to orchestrate it, having any comments between peer review and Bowler so that we can hopefully iron those out before the 8th. And then, 8th and obviously we know when we continue, we have to continue to a time and date certain. So if it's April 8th at 6:30, I think that's fine on our side.
That's great. Okay, can I go? Donna?
Do you want
We've got a motion, we got a second.
the motion to be so amended?
The motion to be so
I'll
amended.
amend the motion to state that the next meeting of April 8th is when we'll discuss the peer review and
Do I have a
communicate
second?
between the people.
Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second that.
Now we vote. Tom? You made
Aye
the
from
motion.
me. I don't know if you're calling on me, Jim. I can't hear you.
Okay. Tom?
Aye.
Yeah, I don't need any of these technical innovations. I just deal with direct yelling. Brian?
Aye.
David?
Yes.
Natasha?
Aye.
And Jim? Aye. The ayes have it. We'll now have that meeting on the 8th of April. Thank you very much.
thank you. We'll see you on April 8th.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Is there another?
Our next order,
They may have other business.
our next is old business. And actually, we have the old business of the status of an emergency certificate across Grand Street. I'm gonna, if any of you have other places to go, have you no homes to go to? we had some difficult, I will have Tom Robinson present this to the board, and then we'll go from there. We have an emergency certification, and Tom brought it forward. Tom?
Yeah, Jim, I really didn't realize I was on the agenda, but as far as I'm concerned, we had a problem on Cross Street with stormwater runoff coming from the project, the drainage project that the town was conducting with Maximilian. I brought it to the attention of Pam and the committee because we had a very serious problem in that we had water running out on Cross Street, running down Grant Street and freezing. In some places, it had to be more than an inch thick, very dangerous situation. So I brought it to the attention of Jim and Pam and asked for help in order to try to resolve the emergency situation. And in doing that, what we were able to do, what the town did, is they put up some diversions using sandbags, whatever they needed to do to try to divert the water into the manhole. It semi-worked. It still semi-works, but it's better than what we had. In the meantime, we had our last meeting, and during the last meeting, Jim and a group of people went up and did a site review. I did not attend the site review. I won't go into a lot of detail, but I did forward my concern, my letter to all the board members in respect to the site review and what I considered a disagreement. Okay. I did have a conversation with Donna after that, the letter. We did discuss what the town was attempting to do and what the town was going to do to resolve the problem. As it stands right now, we have the problem contained. The problem hasn't been resolved, but it's contained. I personally felt that I did not want the town to experience unusual expense in order to resolve the problem. I felt the problem was contained. We would follow through in the spring with a resolution to the major problem, okay? And that's pretty much where I left it in my conversation with Donna. I personally took that position as an abutter to the project, not as a member of the Conservation Commission. I'm the person that raised the issue. I felt as though I wanted to be reasonable in resolving the issue. So that's where I'm at. Okay.
Thank you, John. So as a result of that, we ordered an emergency certification on the 2nd of February. Because of the circumstances of a potential emergency, I thought it was important to have the town ready to go into the area if needed to. So I presented that, and then I was given information back from Mark Stimson that I should have waited until the emergency would present itself, and then we should have dated it then. But at the time, I wanted that ability for this month to respond to Tom's concern. And so as a result of that, the emergency certification went through until the 2nd of March. So we already now have in hand a request for determination in effect. And we can use that request for determination to satisfy the problem so that it is no longer an emergency. And that's what we're doing. Okay. Would you all, Mark, would we all need to sign that certification remotely?
Oh, if I can jump in, when Pam sent it to me, I looked up on GIS and I wasn't sure there was actually any jurisdiction there under the Wetlands Protection Act. That was my first thing. And the second thing was, yeah, I mean, you really, if they haven't started work yet and you don't know how long it takes, you want to wait till maybe the day before they start work to issue it, because it can only be valid for 30 days and the commission cannot extend it. So the first thing is, was there jurisdiction? And second is, yeah, it has expired now. And third thing is, to answer your question, yes, the commission needs to vote on the emergency certificate in order to ratify it.
Okay, so that's what we will do. We will vote on the emergency certificate as it was given with one signature, and that's mine. Then, do I have a motion by the board to ratify this emergency certification?
I'll make a motion for the emergency certification.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any questions or comments from the board? I did it completely by accident, but I believe that by making the emergency certification in effect, while it could have been needed, we don't need the certification now. We can deal with it with as you said, Mark, with the existing permitting process.
Well, still, let's go back to, is there wetland jurisdiction there?
Then why did we vote on it initially?
I don't know.
We put terms and conditions related to that particular pipe in that particular area.
Yeah, but what's your wetlands jurisdiction?
We had already,
Where's your jurisdiction?
the water, the wetland area was a structure that was there to regulate water coming out of the ground up above the street.
So you documented that there is bordering vegetated wetlands there touching the bank of a stream.
We documented that there was a running water, documenting a stream type of result.
Okay, so you're basically still not sure if there's any wetlands jurisdiction. Just because you have running water out of the ground does not make it a regulated area.
Correct. So we're if it's unregulated, then we can go in and do what we wish to do.
Yes, exactly.
And that's now in March, that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the first thing one always has to look at is, do you have jurisdiction on the site? Are there resource areas in the area? If you're not sure, either find out or you walk away.
Right.
this is something that DPW is going to correct, right? And the contractor that's there
The contract.
Yes.
and the
Contractor.
contractor. So it really isn't the Conservation Commission's business to be there, is it?
We were there and giving them a request for determination earlier in the year. The contractor. He stated that, he made a statement that there was a wetland and running water coming out of the ground. And we gave him a request for determination.
Not to take away from Mark's point, but this is a very big project for the town, undertaking, retrofitting of an existing neighborhood's drainage system. It's a $1.3 million project, and we would just ordinarily want to inform the Conservation Commission of this type of effort. They participated in our climate adaptation plan. This is an MVP project. So I think there was just a lot of information exchanged to the commission. So they've been with us every step of the way on this project. So it might have gotten a little confused in that way.
Yes.
So in the future, let's just deal with the future then. In the future, if a situation like this comes up, the very first thing you do is, do you have jurisdiction right there or not? That's all.
Very good. Thank you, Mark.
Okay,
So we have to ratify the emergency certification. And we made a motion to do that, correct? And we got a second?
There was a second, but I'm still, I don't want to belabor a point here, but are we ratifying something that's not even our business to be ratifying?
Ratifying something we did in case it was an emergency that turned out not to be an emergency. Is
So,
that make sense, David?
So should we do this ratification? I mean, Donna, is this something that we should do?
I thought you already did it. I thought you voted, but I thought Mark had indicated we need to close the loop by ratifying it. Is that not correct?
you can ratify it or not ratify it or amend it before you ratify it. There's multiple choices you can do. Or if no
Really
work
doesn't-
was done under it, it can be withdrawn.
Yeah,
That's not fair,
or should we look at it and see if we have jurisdiction first?
Brian? I didn't hear
Should
you.
we look and see if we even have jurisdiction? I mean, why vote
Yeah.
on something we're not even sure we're supposed to vote on?
Brian, I think you can make an argument that it's all connected, this whole drainage project.
Right.
And we voted on it as a commission. And I think it can be it's all part of this whole connection here of all that water that's coming down through those streets. So I think that in a way we can say that we have jurisdiction because of that. And
I mean, thinking back, I thought that there was some wetland area where they were actually addressing where that water actually came out of the ground. I mean, didn't that have some wetland species around it?
Tom, does it in that one spot?
The only area that we even addressed was that area off of Cross Street. That was the only area we addressed. Because we felt that that area, they had the wetland scientist from, I forget who it was.
HB.
Yeah, okay, reviewed the site, okay, and they, in their proposal to us, is we had to make we had orders and conditions and so on and so forth. Their drawings reflect silt fence for the construction for stormwater runoff and so on and so forth. And the only thing I was trying to address was the fact that we in fact took a vote to put conditions on that area. That's the only area in the project we put conditions on. Okay.
Right, out of the entire project.
On the entire project. because that's where the water originated. The other portion of the project, it's all contained within the pipes.
So we
This is
do have
open ground.
jurisdiction.
So this is water coming down the mountain into that opening in that pipe. That's the only open water source in the whole project.
Well, it sounds like we have jurisdiction. We determined that.
I believe we do.
All
That's the
right,
case,
so
then we can
And
vote.
I can be
let's go
overruled.
forward and vote on the ratification. Let's
Right.
ratify the emergency order.
Let's ratify the emergency order,
Yep.
Okay.
you know?
So based on that, do we have to do it individually? Vote
Sure.
individually?
Yeah, do a roll call.
Let's have a roll call.
Do a roll call vote. Tom,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Natasha,
Aye.
Jim, aye. Very good, thank you very much. And we have to thank everybody that we didn't have to put it into action because the weather helped us out. With that, we're just about done.
Do you want a motion to adjourn?
Jim, do you want to let them know about the National Grid correspondence that came by mail?
We have National Grid correspondence about wrongfully located being submitted in by the Massachusetts. I'll get into it.
Pam, did you send that to us via email?
The National
Why don't we
Grid
do
one
that?
came FedEx just the other day, and then the second one came from the town administrator's office just
Why
tonight.
don't we send this to our members
I can submit it all to you in email.
for your
Yeah.
information?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That'd be
We got
good.
it.
Okay, the best thing is we decided that it's the 8th of April that we're gonna meet again. I believe, remember we had that big storm on April 1st? I remember.
I think we should change it to April Fool's Day, Jim.
Right, right. Oh, yeah.
And we did well. I was so happy with the audience's backing of the project. Now we gotta make sure they do it the right way. Don't let our applicant take any shortcuts. And we'll
Jim,
do
Jim, I couldn't believe the size of the packet you dropped off at my house. I needed some assistance to carry it up into the house.
I think I broke the cement. There was so much.
Now you know what they say.
I think they wanted to beat us into submission by breadth of material. It's,
Unbelievable.
what do we have, 100? I had 100 pounds. Mark, I had 100 pounds of documentation that I
It's-
delivered.
That's only part of it. And you got this here too.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening. Great job, everybody.
Have a good night.
I know.
Night.
Aye.
You know it's good because it won't be in the paper tomorrow. See you later, Mark. Thanks for coming.